Hello. Hello. Hopefully you guys can hear me when I keep it this far. Actually, I'm going to turn off the fan that I use just in case. Because I think I speak rather quietly. Just on account of what's going on in the world, I thought I would give some quarantine thoughts. It was kind of enjoyable posting onto the eternal record of the internet my election thoughts back when Trump was up for re-election. Even though being in Canada, it doesn't really affect me, but at the same time it kind of does. People are more here, we're more into that election than our election. Like, at least as for the people I know. I need to stop looking at myself because all I see, there's always something to fixate on, and now I fixate on my shaved mustache, partially shaved. I need to look at that camera. But the quarantine is the most interesting thing to me. Well, I mean, not the most interesting thing. I guess it's a interesting thing, vaguely. It's interesting to me because of how, what's the word, tribalized it's made people. I think that this is a symptom of this information era we're in, because when I grew up, I got many vaccines, and they were never a concern. But then, the argument would be, well, those vaccines were more tried and tested. And then I would say, were they? I mean, I don't know, but I would assume that the people who make the vaccines try and test them the same ways, because I tend to lean positively in my outlook. I don't think there's I believe in conspiracies for sure, but to believe that the vaccine isn't to be trusted, it's like, well, are we thinking conspiratorially, or are we thinking incompetence-wise? Like, did they just make it shitty? Are they, the people who make vaccines, do they suck? Or is there some conspiracy to purposely make it bad? I don't think either of those are probable. I think if the vaccine was released to the public, it's because medical professionals who went to school for over 8 years to get a doctorate, a bunch of them decided, oh, hey, this is safe. We're going to bring it out because quarantine is bad for everything. I mean, it's really good for my mental health. Well, I guess that's debatable, depending on who you ask. But I definitely liked the time to think about things. And my entire life, I've been just craving to have time to do whatever I wanted, whether I was in school or working. At both of those things, whenever I was there, I was wanting to not be there. And I got my wish. I got to be not at either of those things for a year and a half. Yeah, I guess almost a year and a half. Because last spring, last April or so, was when my paid vacation began. And it is now August. My paid vacation is going to end in September, as I got accepted to a Bachelor of Arts program in university. I guess right now it's just going to be a general thingy, because I need to upgrade one course I must upgrade, because in grade 12 I wanted to be out of there so bad. I took the bare minimum, and the bare minimum was English, social studies, and religion, because I was in a Catholic school. And so those were the only grade 12 courses I took. But I digress. Quarantine thoughts. Yeah, to me, I kind of thought it made sense, the quarantine, because there's this crazy virulent plague. We know what plagues are like the bubonic plague was pretty bad, and this obviously wasn't anything like the bubonic plague, but we didn't really know at first. I remember hearing about it when I was working at good old Canadian Tire in the warehouse, and thinking to myself, whoa, there's this virulent disease in China. I bet it's already here in Halifax. Oops, I doxed myself. Oh well. Because we're like a port city, and I figured surely we would be the first to get such a thing, because we receive a lot of importations. But maybe I'm wrong, and I guess maybe the Chinese imports would come on the other side of Canada, over in Vancouver, because I think that's the side of Canada that is across. I laugh at myself but I actually am not too sure. I have to think about the map. The east, yes, side of there's Vancouver. Halifax would be on our east coast, which connects to the west, which is Europe. That's so crazy that I had to think about that. It just goes to show what happens when one doesn't care about education, or when one didn't care about education during one's education. Because I know the map of Azeroth much better, the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. Although I still had to think, my brain isn't meant for maps, because I still had to think about which was on which side. I'm just not a map person. Thank goodness Google Maps exists. But quarantine thoughts. I still haven't gotten my vaccine though, but that's just out of laziness. Because there's a lot of things I can think of that I would like to do that I haven't. So really, it's just interesting to me, and how there's such a debate between it now, and I think that's just a symptom of all the social media in this age of information, which really it will probably in the future be called the age of misinformation. Because, journalists used to actually tell the truth, like, at least I hear that they did. I suppose history is written by the victors, so maybe they didn't, but I watched this Gandhi documentary, and Gandhi really used the press to get India free. And long story, but the press quite liked talking about the truth of Gandhi, because I guess back then they actually valued personal liberties and truth and freedom. Now they value money. They say whatever the highest bidder wants them to say, is what it seems like. But now I got my tinfoil hat on, so they would say. It's interesting though. I really like watching what goes on in the world. It's better than the Super Bowl. Anything else to say about it? No, that's really the only interesting thing to me, how divisive, that was the word I was looking for earlier, how divisive it's made people. People are either like, that's what you see online. Nobody I know in person, I don't really know anybody in person anymore, but when I did know people in person, which was at the beginning of this, I don't think none of them were really cared. Like, everyone I knew just saw it as a way to not have to work anymore. We were like, yes, paid vacation. Although not every Canadian Tire was deemed an essential service. And so I could have actually kept working, but I asked to be laid off and kind of claimed like anxiety, saying that I didn't want, and really I didn't want to work when there's some plague, some disease going around. Nobody knew how crazy it was. I don't want to be on the front lines of that for minimum wage. No thanks. So I got out of there and got my paid vacation. But hopefully it's over now. It'd be nice to not have to wear a mask in public anymore. It's rather stifling. Stifles the voice and makes it harder to breathe. But it seems to stop the spread mildly, so people say, but then other people say, oh, no it doesn't. And then I say, I don't know. I like to trust medical professionals, but then I know news people say whatever they're paid to say, and I know medical people have also in history been paid, like the cigarette companies. People used to have medical professionals who would argue. Like the cigarette companies seem to used to pay off medical professionals to argue that cigarettes were healthy, or at the very least, not deadly. I think they actually claimed they were good for you until people, start dropping like flies, and finally the evidence piles up. But age of disinformation. That's what Trump was really on about, all the fake news and everything, and he kind of got pilloried for it. They crucified that guy for that. And look at it now. The GameStop saga, that's what I'm rather involved in. I got my stocks, and it's very obvious to me after being involved in that, because the media, they just run these stories that are totally contrary to the facts, and now I wish my memory was better. I can't remember examples, but they tried to keep saying that it was a failing business for so long, when obviously it wasn't. They won't even mention the word short selling. They're like, that's like the word that shall not be named, Voldemort to them. When short selling is what's behind it all. It's very clear. And also the short sellers are the ones who made a lot of money when the economy crashed from COVID. because they shorted the entire market, which I mean you would do if you were in it. Like I say, it's like people who are into stocks do. But then there's this other segment of short sellers who seem to have found this handy little loophole where they can naked short, which is this crazy process where they short sell shares that don't even exist. And if the company goes bankrupt, they no longer need to report those sales. And so they like to bankrupt companies. Some of them do. And those are the real bad guys. That's what they were trying to do to GameStop. But then some good guys came in and bought themselves some ways into the board. And now GameStop is no longer going to fail. And now it's going to be a new thing. That's a whole another can of worms. And I can't really articulate it well enough to explain that whole thing. But you can check it out on Reddit. On r/superstonk or r/GME. That's good. Oh, 1056. Nice. I like that number. 56 is the Wheat's number. Bye.